Nick Sonder is an exceptionally talented architect, known for designing stunning homes nestled in the rugged mountains of Truckee, California. He's also a true pioneer of the SketchUp to LayOut workflow. In his keynote presentation from the 2024 SketchUp 3D Summit, Nick shares his process for designing and constructing a home on a steep lot. He walks us through his multi-model approach, explaining how he manages complex section cuts, coordinates with contractors, and tackles challenges like snow load and steep terrain. When it comes to SketchUp modeling and level of detail, here's one insight from Nick that really stood out.
The main key is the frame and the foundation. Everything else is built onto that. So I don't model any of the other stuff.
It's a powerful reminder to prioritize what's essential to your drawing set and maybe not sweat the small stuff like cabinet pulls and trim. This video is sponsored by Flex Tools. At its core, Flex Tools is a powerful collection of dynamic components that make modeling in SketchUp faster and more efficient. I'll share more about how it can streamline your workflow later in the video. For now, let's hear from Nick Sonder as he takes us behind the scenes of his latest project.
Well, thank you, and thank you, Michael, for putting this on. This is quite an amazing event with such a small group. I can only imagine the amount of information you're going to get might be a little overwhelming. Today, my goal is just to give a little inspiration, and I'm going to do that by showing you a project I have that's actually under construction right now. And the process that I use, and it's a little different. I don't know if anyone's familiar with how I develop a project, but I use multiple SketchUp models. I use multiple layout files. I don't try to load everything into one document. I do eventually, for instance, the SketchUp model you're seeing here does have the full site modeled as well as the entire home. This is used to generate specific drawings, which you can see in the tabs, like the, let me pick ones, like the site plan, for instance. And I'll have ones, this one has multi-levels, so to get the section cuts to work correctly, I have a section cut through the garage, and then also a section cut changes a little bit through the upper portion of the home. And then those are kind of weaved together in layout. But the process with SketchUp, for me, and I've been using it since it's first came out, I think it was in 2001, it kind of transitioned over the years. I went through a process of just using it to design, just to develop basic concepts, to do renderings, for instance, because I went to an art school for architecture. And so I had a lot of drawing classes. So I used to do lots of hand drawing renderings and watercolors. So SketchUp just kind of fit my needs perfectly because I could almost emulate ink and watercolor drawings right through SketchUp. And then as it developed, I realized I was missing the point as far as how much work I was doubling over by using AutoCAD in addition to SketchUp. So with the advent of LayOut coming out, it took a couple of versions before I could adopt it, which was LayOut version 3. And so by 2009, I was developing full projects with both SketchUp and LayOut, and doing all of my documentation without any AutoCAD. And that was a big relief for me because I found myself having, the typical issues folks have with AutoCAD where it would crash often. I know that's kind of a joke, but it's like, well, SketchUp crashes too. And yes, it does. But I've found by maintaining and organizing your model, I get far less crashes. In fact, I rarely get crashes, of course it'll be today, with SketchUp. And that's only because I am not that adept yet with version 2024. I typically do not change versions during a project. I will only change the version when I start a new project. And I did not have much success with 22 and 23, so a lot of, for instance, my layout files today you'll see are from version 2021. And, but this right now is on 2024, which is this site model. This is a house that's under construction on a very steep lot. You can see here, this is actually a trail down here, so you don't see much of the home. Little scary during construction to build these rockery walls, which is happening now. In fact, you can see here is a little slideshow. This is a beautiful view on the property, but this is the kind of the upper mound where the house sits. You can see there's the guys pouring the concrete. And as it slowly developed, the frame coming in, this is all a patio that's up to floor level. So we do a lot of waterproofing around the perimeter foundation wall, as well as a lot of drainage work that we deal with in our area because we have such a high amount of snow. Our snow loads are what generate a lot of work on our costs towards the foundation, actually. So you can see here the contractor, thankfully, actually has a drone. So we did a bunch of drone images of the project under construction. And everything has gone together really well. This is a project that's done in Douglas County in Nevada. This looks over Washoe Valley, so it has absolutely amazing views that just extend across the entire valley, and with the Sierra rising up just to the right of the property. So it's really stunning, stunning sight. It has some challenges. For instance, as I mentioned, those rockery walls. And I don't know if I have an actual construction shot of the rockery walls. There we go. So if you can imagine that steep slope as it's coming down here, they've got a backhoe up there setting these giant boulders. And so they actually set up a full retention wall down below to catch any boulders that potentially roll down onto the trail below, because it's actually a hiking and mountain biking trail. So it was a little scary, but they managed to do it. No boulders rolled, so we were happy. And so it's moving along well. This is, you can see each little phase here. They've got the steel up. We do end up with quite a bit of steel in our projects. This one a little less than normal. Here we had to, because these are big window walls, so we had no way to have any shear walls, so we just went for steel. There you can kind of see the view it faces with the steel up. And so right now it's getting close to having the frame complete. You can see here, this is my last site visit, which was last Thursday. I was out on site. There's some of the views from the patio coming along. You can see some of the detailing here with the large timber outlookers. We actually just extend those into the walls to become the headers for the openings. A lot of these are really large openings for glass, which you'll see in the model. There's the contractor pointing something wrong out to me. So the contractors do really enjoy having SketchUp because we give them the model. And so it really helps. And if some of you probably know, I work with Zachary Engineering, and I convinced them many years ago to go all SketchUp. So they produce everything in SketchUp as well. And so we just overlay our models is how they develop it. So I'll send them the model, they'll load it in, they'll put in all the studs, all the framing, everything to scale, size the beams, and we go back and forth until we have a fully coordinated set. I verify that all the beams fit in the cavities. If they don't, we make sure we have the wall furred out to hide any steel that we want to hide. If we have a project where we know we're going to expose the steel, then I get a little bit more involved on the sizes of the steel so that we can actually model the flange width and thickness to see what it looks like inside the space. Lately, I've been having a lot more folks wanting to just hide the steel. About 2-3 years ago, it was really big to expose all of your steel. And then steel has its other challenges too, especially when we're bringing it from the outside to the inside, because we have condensation issues between the hot and cold side. So we do a lot of things with closed cell foam right at the perimeter to prevent any or as much transition as possible. Fortunately, we're in a very dry climate. I think if we were in a humid climate, we would have more serious issues with that. But the concept that I use with SketchUp is to keep it simple. Even though the models appear very detailed, in fact, this model you'll see, I'll go right inside real quick here. Sorry, just keep going through walls. I love doing this with clients. If I had my 3D mouse working, we'd be all set, but I don't. But it's going to end up either below the model or inside. Here we go. So here you can see inside I do all the doors, all the trim. Let me get out of the wall again, sorry. Gotta love that. And you can see all the cabinetry is done. So I get it actually pretty much ready for doing full renderings and animation on a project. This really helps. I mean, early on I'll do conceptual models of the cabinets where they'll just be blocks, so they get a concept of how the space feels. And then later on I have, of course, a whole bunch of components of different cabinet sizes and depths that I load into the model, and I can resize those very easily. They're not dynamic components. I don't use those. I still manually edit them. But I have most of them already pre-sized to standards on 3-inch increments. For homes that are really looking for a budget, a lot of these homes, it doesn't matter. We'll have a custom cabinet maker that'll make everything exact. And so,
if you're serious about saving time and working smarter, the Flex Tools extension is a must-have. At its core, Flex Tools is a powerful collection of dynamic components designed to streamline your workflow. Doors, windows, and other architectural elements can be easily added, adjusted, and customized with just a few clicks. Plus, the wall cutter feature automatically punches rough openings through groups, streamlining model editing and organization. What makes Flex Tools even better is that its components are optimized for precise 2D drawings and layout. These dynamic components include 2D graphics for plan views, along with additional details to dial up elevation drawings. If you're looking to supercharge your workflow, be sure to grab my Contact Tools extension as well. Simply load the Flex Tools drawing set to reprogram our drawing automation tools, making them work seamlessly with Flex Tools objects and tags. I use Flex Tools and Contact Tools together to create these drawings for an ADU project in Denver. It's a game-changing combo. Flex Tools is perfect for architects, interior designers, and builders who want to bring more speed, accuracy, and efficiency to their workflows. Check out the link in the description.
while this looks very detailed, the file itself is not that big. I think it's 75 to 80 megs with the site. And same with, that transfers, of course, to layout. And so the goal is, with my SketchUp files, is I actually then produce other files that just reference this file in to create other drawings, like interior elevations, section cuts, site plans. All of those become individual models. So this one is the site model. It has the referenced home model, which is a separate file on its own, into the site. And what it does is it really makes everything fast and smooth. I mean, you see, 24 is really quick. It's so smooth, much smoother than it's been in the past. And you can see there's lots of detail in here with the kitchen and the walls. Sorry, I don't have my 3D mouse, but there's just a lot of detail, but done in a way where it's very efficient. So for instance, the cabinets, the interiors are not modeled. It's just a box with the doors, because there's no need to do that unless you're building the cabinets. But it does give the cabinet maker a good head start with the drawings, because they'll have a full set. If I click over to here, I'll jump into interior elevations. They'll have a full set, fully dimensioned, showing everything that they need to get their documents started. They still have to go out in the field no matter what and pre-measure, because there's always going to be variations during construction that we can never control. So that's why I laugh when I see people getting upset. There was recently a post on LinkedIn about somebody who had a model that was like 1/132nd of an inch off. I don't know if anybody saw that. And my comment was, you realize no contractor is building to anywhere close that dimension. This is not machining, this is construction. And so it's not that important. The main key is the frame and the foundation. Everything else is built onto that. So I don't model any of the other stuff. I model just the 5.5-inch thickness of a stud wall, or 8-inch thickness of a foundation wall, or 12, or whatever the width is. And then I just apply a texture to that and leave it at that, because providing all of that other stuff, I mean, that's great for a builder for takeoffs, right, John? Yes, sir. And I'm not knocking it, but for architects and for getting your plans approved for design and through construction, it's really not necessary for us to have that shown, because as long as they have the frame in place and we're telling them it's going to have 5/8 drywall on it, or 1/2-inch drywall, they'll be able to take off from that surface. I also don't give out my plans for them to do takeoffs. I let them use it with a note that this is for your reference only, because I don't want to be liable for any takeoffs. But the whole concept, again, is just keep these things simple. And you'll notice that this is just a file for interior elevations only. And it has 4 pages of interior elevations. Let me just get it so you can see the whole page. This is 21, so it's a little blocky on the zoom. Layout's smoother, right? I mean, 24, yeah. Good. And so it has, what I do is basically provide elevations for everything that has a cabinet. So I don't provide every elevation on the home unless a client really wants that, or if they hire an interior designer, where I work with a lot of interior designers as well. And some of them will choose to do their own drawings, some of them will just feed me concept drawings, and then I'll modify the model exactly to their plans. And of course I charge for that. But it makes the whole process efficient when you just have a document dedicated specifically to that scope. And there's lots of advantages to it, not only speed, but you can also then, if a client just needs the elevations, interior elevations, I just have to open up one file and I can export the PDFs and it's done. And if you use Bluebeam, it's really easy to load all those PDFs together. It just takes minutes. And you can see I've got actually 6 files open right now, and even on 21, it's really fast. This one is just the elevations, and in this case, there's 6 of them. And that's due to the varying angles on the home. And again, it's just a nice feature because you're not digging through a set of 40 sheets to find that range to print. You just print that set. And so for me, I've found that process really easy. I've heard people say, oh, that's kind of confusing. I've got all these files to deal with. But I just don't see the advantage of putting it all in one layout file when you can have multiple instances open in the layout program. Anyways, I mean, I've had a full set open before, and so I can just go back and forth by tab to those individual drawings. Yes?
Are you referencing the same model on all those ends?
It depends. So I have multiple models. So I have a model for the site. I have the base model, which is the home, fully modeled, and that's the one that I edit. And then the site model, I only edit for site things. And then there are 3 other models, which are sections, interior elevations, and reflected ceiling plans that all just reference, are referenced to a layout file, but they have just the reference of the main home. So I never edit those SketchUp files other than putting in the section cuts. So for instance, on the reflected ceiling plan, it's mirrored the home model. And then I have the section cuts looking down. That way I can take advantage of the light and shadow on the ceiling surface. On the sections, it's just loaded up with sections. In fact, I don't know if I have that file open. I won't do that today. But it'll just have the reference model in, then I cut all the sections, creates all the scenes that are all labeled, all the section cuts are labeled. Same with the interior elevations. It has everything done through section cuts, and then all of the scenes are labeled by the room number, whether it's north, east, south, or west. So very easy to do, and then you don't end up with a file with a million scenes, because that's the one thing I've always asked for is a scene manager. No, I'm looking at you. But you know, I'm fine with it the way it is because of the process I use, but if you had a scene manager, it'd be kind of nice to be able to set up different groups like section cuts A through. Because some of, especially on my details, which I'll be doing a detail presentation, you'll see I have some details that have, 30 to 40 different scenes for different conditions. So, am I doing on time okay? And so the process has worked really well. Through this type of coordination, it actually produces the drawings far faster than I did with AutoCAD. Back when I did that first interview with SketchUp, which was in 2011, I think, I was doing it in about a third of the time. It's pretty much the same. It's about the third of the time. But I produce a lot more drawings in my drawing set. So one of the homes we just completed had 110 sheets with the architectural and structural combined. And that gives a contractor all the information they need. So I rarely get calls, same with the structural engineer. A lot of times right now on this project and another one I'm doing, we have just monthly meetings. And then they call me if something comes up. And so it's not much cost to the client, but I still get to go out. I prefer it to be more often, but the clients get a little weary on us being out there all the time. And I would agree, and there's some stages where we don't need to be. The important ones are really early on, but those seem to be the ones we're called out the least. And it's worked out. We don't, like I said, it's rare. I've had projects where I didn't even get called out once and came out to the finished project. And everything worked out fine. There were no change orders, nothing to deal with. Building departments when I first submit to, for instance, a new building department, sometimes I'll face, oh, here's a few plan check items, and a lot of times just guiding them to where to find the information. Because there's a lot of detail in these drawing sets. Usually, 100 and something architectural details alone, and then structural has about the same in their number of details. And so we don't get too many questions. I did have one just go through Placer County for a project out near Lake Tahoe, 5,000 square foot home. We had 0 comments. And that was surprising to me because it was all under the new energy code, which in California has got some pretty harsh restrictions now. One of them being the solar mandatory requirement. And solar does not work well in snow country, not just because of the obvious of the snow sitting on top, but the snow is actually destroying the panels. So it's a lot of the installations we see only last 2 to 3 seasons. And so there's no payback on that when you're replacing it all the time. And some of them just get sheared off, especially after, when was it? 22, when we had 60 feet of snow. And everybody had to shovel their roofs, and a lot of people don't forget, oh, by the way, there's solar panels up there, So it makes it very difficult. And people think, well, it's just going to slide off. It's like, well, no, not when it sets up and it's that deep. And it's so much weight. We exceeded our snow loads, and as an example, my house is at 6,500 feet, and my snow load's 350 pounds per square foot. And that's a lot of weight. If you can imagine, that's like putting a Humvee on end, stacked a couple high all the way across your roof. It's a lot of weight. And so we face a lot of issues with snow design. You can see all the roofs are designed in a way where we don't shed onto patios or onto garages or onto entryways. We try to keep it away because people do get injured or killed. We've had people actually get killed from, banging on, and I don't know why they would do this, but banging on an ice dam, and then the whole thing lets go and they break their neck. And it's funny, but it's scary because it does happen. Or we've had kids 2 years ago, there was a kid walking around and playing around a condo, and the roof let go and buried the kid, and they found him and he survived, thankfully, but he was minutes away from suffocation. And so it's a serious issue where we are. When people probably saw all the YouTube videos of Donner Summit and all that. Living through that was an absolute nightmare. I was actually ready to pack up and leave by March, and then thankfully it stopped. So what I could say to all of you is just to really take in what this group has to offer. We're all here. It's a very small group, so we're all approachable even after hours. If you have projects you're working on, you're happy to review them with me. If you have any questions on how I develop these things from scratch, I'm happy to show you. I have all of my information with me. So with that, I think we're at 9 o'clock. Thank you.
Nick's process is a masterclass in navigating design challenges using SketchUp Pro and LayOut. If you agree, hit that like button and make sure to subscribe to my channel to catch all the recordings from the 2024 3D Summit. Here's a link to all the details about the 2025 3D Summit happening in Denver next June. You can catch Nick Sonder and at least a dozen other SketchUp experts in action. Or click here to check out our latest upload. I don't know what it's about, but I know you're gonna like it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.